Hello, everyone, and welcome to this actual play of Bitter Chalice. We'll be playing in Italian. Some of you might hear this recording in English as well, thanks to Black Magic. I'll hand it over directly to Jack, who is our master for this occasion. Let's also greet Never, who is joining me in this adventure as the grave robber. I'll be playing the condemned. Exactly. So, what are we going to play today?
Today we're going to play a sort of spin-off of the tutorial adventure that will be in the Bitter Chalice package called Madfield, Escape from the Madfield. However, instead of playing the main characters, we'll be playing two characters who got caught up in the situation. This is mainly to avoid spoiling the adventure for anyone who might play it later, and also to skip the tutorial part and get straight to the action. So we can show some gameplay and a bit of the basic mechanics, let's say.
Very okay.
Do we want to start already? Shall we start with a character introduction?
Yes, we can introduce the characters. I don't know if you want to. Mine doesn't have a name, so I have to imitate myself.
There should be a name that can be easily identified and remembered.
No, don't think we put it there.
So also in mine, there's a name. So well, I'll put it and share it on screen if we exit. Wait, because no, obviously now it's complex because I already have another screen shared. Well, I'll read it without sharing the sheet. I don't know if you have it on your screen. Someone else can share it. Yes, I can share it if you want. So now let's give it a name. Tell me a name, typical for this. So, the condemned. First of all, comes from the Empire of Sian, which, as you will see, the people who will play Bitter Chalice will notice is a rather standard empire within the setting. It's managed by a strong authority, and basically the Spartan aspect comes from the fact that you don't have equipment available and you can somehow create it or do without it through some abilities. As for the names, the Empire of Sian, for names, typically German ones like Wirt, Elk, Leibet, Willem, Falk, Abigail, etc., etc., etc.
Okay, come on, I like Willem. I'll go with Willem.
Willem, just to stay on the Bloodborne theme.
Okay. I'm trying to share the screen, but since I already have another one shared, it won't let me.
So wait, I downloaded it and I'll share it.
As for the Old Kingdom, which is where you come from, Never, where your character is from, it's a land of outcasts and bandits, full of guerrillas. It's been abandoned. It's a place that is practically always... Oh, no, sorry. I said something stupid. First, you came from that place, from the sheet present, but instead, you come from Lenali, which is an archipelago in the far north. A land shrouded in mist, surrounded by storms. The people there are renowned for being sailors, for having a strong character, great craftsmanship, and they are also quite superstitious.
A typical name. So this area, grave robber.
Also here from this area, theoretically, these are Nordic names. So here, Tommaso can probably instruct you better than I can. But tuat nuul ton muur. Thiol Alfar.
Alfar, that's good. Perfect Alfar in the sign. Great. Okay. I'll also show you the sheet of the condemned. Tell me what I need to do to see where it should come out.
Scroll it quickly. Yes, just to show it. This is the grave robber. Exactly. I remind those who are following us, if you're watching this episode in Italian, this sheet makes perfect sense. If you're watching the English translation, trust me, there are some things written down. Then we'll talk about the abilities. But actually, I would dive straight into the action. If you've read a bit of your background, it says who your characters were. I can introduce mine, but first I'd like to give a brief introduction for those watching this video, disconnected from the Bitter Chalice campaign. Bitter Chalice is a role-playing game published by the World Ambient Publishing, and by the time you see this video, it will probably already be on Kickstarter. If it's not, it's about to launch soon. By the way, I'll also put the link on the screen where you can find the campaign. It's a role-playing game that talks about a cursed city called Vatan, which was sealed in ancient times due to some sort of... There were wars against it because inside this city, a substance called holy water was distilled, which was used to cure a lot of diseases and even extend life and so on. Then what happened, Jack? Why did this city become cursed?
So, during the last crusade of the United Churches, it's unclear what happened, but it seems that the place was struck by a great epidemic. Some say a curse. There's a big mystery about what occurred. The fact is, it was decided to close off this region, not just Vatan, but the entire area, with gigantic walls that are called the Walls of Weeping. These walls have stood for hundreds of years, and these lands have essentially been used to dispose of unwanted people by throwing them inside. It's also said that the condemned who are brought here are promised freedom, or at least redemption for their sins or offenses, if they complete a certain mission. You're not really meant to know this because in reality, your characters are the outcasts of society. You've been thrown in here without much ceremony, and the key has been thrown away, so to speak, even though there was never really a key.
Very good. So, my character. The background says, I don't know if I can read it out loud. So, there was a time when you were a skilled craftsman from Xi'an. Your hands created masterpieces admired by nobles and merchants, but those days are long gone. It only took for a noble to be poisoned and for the weapon to be one of your creations, and your life was over, swallowed by a dark cell. In prison, you learned how to survive, transform common objects into weapons to hide in your flesh, apply poisons under your fingernails, learn to defend yourself with your bare hands. Losing everything has made you find your will to fight. After yet another prisoner was killed, they decided to throw you into the infected lands where the local slavers captured you and put you to work in the muddy fields, where you learned a new kind of agony, being exploited and hungry, in addition to being a prisoner. But on a moonlit night, your fate changed.
Exactly. Nevers, do you want to read your background too?
Sure. So, my background simply says that my character was born in the Nili Islands. He grew up in harsh conditions. He learned raiding tombs was safer than the sea. While exploring tombs, he discovered hidden mysteries. One tomb of a pale noble proved fatal. So, digging into the secrets of the tombs forgotten by your fellow villagers, who, blinded by superstition, did not realize the treasures beneath their feet, little by little the dead insects and the molds seemed to speak to me, revealing hidden mysteries. But of all the wrong tombs my character has opened and even plundered, there is that of a dull noble, and it was fatal. His children found me, and out of revenge, they decided they would have fun sending me to the infected lands. The slavers from those places captured me and threw me into the muddy fields. And from there, I'm forced to work to the bone under the impassive gaze of armed jailers. But on a moonlit night, fate changed.
Exactly. If you need any more introductions, just let me know, Tom. Otherwise...
No, I'd say we can start playing.
Okay, so what exactly happened? You both found yourself companions in this unfortunate fate of being slaves to these A characters who didn't ask you too many questions and didn't even let you ask one. You only know that they have a P sewn on their chests and they move on these stilts to avoid getting their hands dirty while pulling out the vegetables. And these other horrible looking greens that provide food, probably, for very large groups of people. You work until exhaustion from dawn to dusk, maybe even a bit later. And if you even try to take an unauthorized break, their whips reach you pretty quickly. What happened? You worked up to a certain point until one night something happened. Some hooded figures arrived. They crossed the boundaries, the walls of this plantation, and caused a revolt, an escape. You took the opportunity to escape and retrieve what little belongings you knew had been thrown into a warehouse. Most of these things seem harmless at first glance, but you know how to use them in a certain way to defend yourselves. You escaped along with other groups of slaves who also took advantage of the confusion and chaos to flee into the night. You climbed the hills, distancing yourselves from the muddy fields, and finally arrived at a place that was relatively safe, enough to assess your next options on what to do.
Is it time to show the map now?
Exactly.
Okay, just a moment. Have it. Here it is.
Exactly. So this is the map, and you specifically find yourselves. You are here at the edge of the muddy fields. Okay, so for convenience, I've fogged out all the areas that aren't part of the mud fields. Okay, so you can easily know which areas are explorable.
For clarity, the other areas are only available in the main campaign.
Exactly. Here you can see to the south that many of these scouts have gone to where there should be a bridge. They're patrolling and preventing you from going south. So the only remaining paths you see are to the north, a sort of big trail, and then heading east, a bit closer to Vatan, which is still quite far for you. You see a sort of, now in game terms, you find yourselves in an area. This area here is considered to be within the muddy fields. We can see the beautiful icons that Fabio has created, and you can choose to explore these other two locations. Okay? These other 2 points of interest, let's say, it's up to you. Depending on what you explore, it will cost a certain number of hourglasses. The hourglasses are displayed in the game down here. And for me, the night is over during your escape and you are at dawn, so you are before, marking this hourglass. Okay, that's the first one. The more you go on, the more it progresses. Morning, afternoon, evening, and night. And then it starts all over again. Okay. Complete 8 hourglasses and the entire day passes.
Okay, we don't know in advance how many hourglasses it costs to move from one area to another, right?
No, there are abilities that make it possible, but your characters don't possess them. Okay. And note, you never have a particular ability that you need to make a choice about right now at the beginning of the game, because your ability requires a choice between 3 options, if I remember correctly.
Yes, talking to animals and insects, understanding and communicating with parasitic plants, fungi, and molds. Talking to corpses. Okay.
You have to choose one of three.
But you know that I understand and communicate with parasitic plants, fungi, and molds.
Nice. We like it.
This is indeed quite fascinating.
So,
So, let's repeat the two options. On one side, there's a kind of camp towards the city, right?
yes, because you are on a hill more or less in this area and looking west.
There's also a river to cross when looking at the map, right?
Yes. Also,
On the other hand, we have a path that goes somewhere, but we don't know exactly where.
it seems to be heading north.
So, my opinion is that we should head north because the camp already has people there who definitely won't be friendly. I see this feeling in the map of the war machines. I assume that's it, right?
These here are war machines. Actually, you already saw them when you were captured. They are very ancient war machines that are strange because they seem like sculptures because they are made of stone. But they don't have the idea of being so. They seem to be old war machines that surround Vatan. And yet, as I was saying, they are made of stone instead of wood. However, they also seem to be in bad condition. Some seem to have been attacked, or in any case, to have been partially destroyed. Others instead seem still intact and surround Vatan, just as if they were trying to besiege it.
What do you think about the grave robber named Alfer?
I think we should head north. Too, it's better to avoid more people. They could be anywhere, so would say to avoid getting into trouble.
Okay? If you head north, you'll get closer. And right now in the game Bitter Chalice, you have the option to use a marker. In this case, the C1 marker, which indicates that you've discovered a new location. Okay. In this case, the location is this one, which is the Flayed Trail. I'm also doing a bit of a tutorial, of course, while showing these things. The Flayed Trail, in my case, as the GM, I have the opportunity to go see what's inside the Flayed Trail, of course. So another thing I need to do in this case as the master is to carefully narrate to you that as you slowly approach and explore it, you mark some hourglasses. Okay? The hourglasses in question are counted below. In this case, I can already tell you that the Flayed Trail takes 2 hourglasses. In this case, I'm going here to show you how it would work.
Yes, one of the reasons why we focus a lot on the box in the campaign is because these types of mechanics lend themselves particularly well to being played around the table. However, there will clearly be the possibility to do it digitally as well. It's slightly more labor intensive.
In this case, I've made some small markers to indicate that out of the 8 slots, 2 have passed. So from your point of view, it's no longer morning, but we're starting to head towards noon. This is important because some events within the locations change drastically depending on whether it's day, night, and so on.
Okay.
As you continue on, you also realize that in your escape, you haven't set aside any rations, and you know that soon you'll start to feel quite hungry or even tired because during the night you worked hard to escape, so you've spent quite a bit of energy and everything else. In any case, as you get closer, you see an old, completely paved road that winds up towards the northern Kalankia and passes through various battlefields and rural areas indiscriminately. So on the left and right, you see old abandoned mills, rundown houses, overgrown fields full of weeds, and twisted plants. And on some buildings, you can also see barricades as if they had been used in some way to defend themselves or to barricade themselves inside, while old stone arches mark the path of this trail.
Stone arches.
Yes, stone arches, as you see in the icon. There are these arches that mark this path, dotted on the left and right by old crumbling buildings. And in the distance, you can also see a bridge that crosses over the stream. In this case, it extends this way, as you can see from the map, and crosses this stream. While the bridge seems stable, the water flowing beneath it has a nauseating smell and a putrid appearance, like almost all the water you've seen in these lands. If you want, you can talk among yourselves a bit to assess the situation. And you also need to decide what to do next and how to possibly remedy the situation regarding resources, or agree on whether to rest. I remind you that these are game actions, but we can discuss that later, okay? The only thing I ask, Alfard, is, do you know what happened here?
Honestly, no. In fact, I'm more confused than you. About what the hell is in these lands. I'm looking around for mushrooms, parasitic plants or mold, or things like that.
Yeah, especially if you get close to some houses where the sun doesn't shine directly, you'll find that inside, where the humidity stagnates, mushrooms, mold, and all sorts of things form.
But then, excuse me, since it's kind of a battlefield, there will also be corpses, right?
Absolutely.
You, being a grave robber, are really in your element here.
Not by chance. I look around, kind of, rubbing my hands. I look at it and say, well, I can go, check it out, give me a second, and I head towards the first group of mushrooms I see. So there's a group of mushrooms next to an old crumbling house with a collapsed roof, and you can't see well what's inside, but there's a nice cluster of mushrooms growing on a wooden plank that you think are beefsteak mushrooms. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Those mushrooms that grow along tree trunks and have that jelly-like substance on top. Well, of course, as long as you don't use your ability, they won't do anything. They're just regular mushrooms.
They're mushrooms. Strange. No, I'll use my ability to speak and understand. So the talent of the grave robbers.
Okay. So just to focus a bit on this ability, the ability in this case is a passive ability, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, it's a passive.
Okay. And it tells you that normally you can talk to these creatures, but if you want to extract specific information, you might need some proof. Yes. Anyway, when you get closer, what do you ask the mushrooms?
I basically ask what Villain asked me. So, what happened? Let me just talk to you. Okay. So I approach the mushrooms and I start talking to them as if they were a person. Okay. So, hello. We are moving and we wanted to my companion, and I, we've never been here. What happened? Because this devastation, these corpses, etc.
Hello, Mr. Toad.
So, Willem, are you a bit unsure? I don't know. Have you seen him do this before?
So I know he's strange and has some morbid perversions. Every time we were at the camp, when someone succumbed to the whip or when a dead animal was found, he had this fascination with decay and rot. He would touch things, smell them. It was a bit gross, but he wasn't even the worst of those I shared these camps with.
He was the least worst.
He was the least worst, exactly. Let's put it that way. I'm surprised that he talks to the mushrooms to a certain extent because he seems like someone who's not quite all there. Let's put it that way.
Legitimate. How do you imagine this response in your mind? Do you imagine them taking on a bit of substance like the rock from Fantagero, for example?
No, I was thinking a bit more substance, but something I can still see. Always to keep that strange effect of talking to a mushroom.
I imagine these mushroom gills opening up and becoming mouths. So you see all these mushrooms becoming talking mouths, and they're saying, another says it's humid. We're thriving on corpses. The rot is perfect. An older dry mushroom says, I remember. They all talk together, making a racket. Hearing this noise, I think to find a solitary one. I say, calm down. Who is the oldest? The driest mushroom, around for half an hour, says, I'm the oldest. Were there corpses when you sprouted? They talk about how satisfying it was having corpses forever, while humans offer nothing. Maybe backpacks or something to learn from. They ask what humans eat. A younger one says, mushrooms. Humans eat mushrooms. Oh my God, he's going to eat us. And you see, they start saying, we can't even escape. And they start to get a bit agitated, let's say.
In the meantime, I'm watching this scene with him that, yes, exactly.
I'm trying to get closer to the mushrooms. And I start thinking about something. In the meantime, I'm looking around, hoping no one particularly threatening shows up while I watch this one. So I look at them and say, no, wait, hold on. We're not going to eat you. At least me and my companion won't eat you. We eat other things. And that's exactly why we need your help to find that other stuff. You see, there's a smaller mushroom saying, tell him, or he'll eat us all. So here, I ask you, if you want to try talking to them because they're agitated. Normally, you handle social relationships with heart, but since you have a special ability, you can communicate with these creatures using shadow in this case.
Okay, all right. I'll handle the dice roller, but think about what to roll. So roll with shadow. How much do you have?
I have 3 in shadow.
Okay. And you don't have any malice at the moment?
Not at moment.
So, Giacomo, we roll 3 dice, right?
Yes, +3. In this case, I can tell you that yours is a supernatural ability, and you could draw on a memory of yours. The memory you have is a sixth sense. In this case, it tells you that the memory is about sensing supernatural presences. In this case, you're not exactly perceiving them, but since it relates to the fact that you're communicating in a supernatural way with these presences, I'm happy to allow it, partly for this reason, and partly because I want to show you how the memory mechanics work. When you bring a memory into play, you take a single die from your roll. In this case, it will be the one, and you can re-roll it for free.
Yes. I'd say I'll do just that. And roll it. Yes. Go ahead. 2. Nice. Okay. An improvement. Anyway, when you said I'm not perceiving them, yes, I'm actually being affected by the supernatural presences from all the hysterical mushrooms.
Exactly. So, let's take a look at the result for a moment. In this case, 4, 3, 2, 9, and 3. Because it's detached, right?
Yes. Shadow protection.
Exactly. And 3 is a 12. From 11 and up, the tests are a success. In this case, though, it's a success, but so your narrative goal was to extract information from these mushrooms, or at least to make them think. And I'm telling you that this goal has been achieved. Okay, but it has a small complication within it. Now, I can handle whatever I want among the various complications. Your goal, on the other hand, seems quite clear to me. I mean, I'm asking for confirmation. Your objective is to get some specific information about something to eat from these mushrooms. I'm telling you that they speak to you in a somewhat cryptic way, so you don't fully understand what they're saying. After all, they're mushrooms, and you don't know how this ability of yours works, but you doubt they have a particularly developed brain. They start to stammer among themselves and say, well, there's the fat guy and the skinny one. They definitely have something to eat. And the others say yes, unless someone has eaten it all. One of the two must have eaten everything. Yes, it must be the skinny one. No, it must be the fat one, right? They're rambling about these two guys who must be nearby.
Okay, got it. Dictionary fat guy. Okay, and I suppose you can't tell me, dear mushrooms, where to find them.
Yes, 2 houses down. No, maybe there were 3. Have you ever seen the houses further down? No, but I heard them talking. Ah, so you think you know everything, huh? In short, they keep bickering, but more or less, they point you to the destination.
So, having done that, look at what I'm doing. Thank you very much. You didn't eat them for today. What a relief. But I was a bit disappointed. I wanted to know what flavor I had. And well, they keep debating among themselves. But overall, they say goodbye to you. And I go back to my dear Willem, thinking, okay, maybe the food problem has been solved. I don't know what happened here, but we need to go find a fat guy and a skinny guy. 2 houses down, and the mushrooms told you this.
Yes. Lead the way then. Let's see.
You have to trust the mushrooms. Haven't you seen me talking to the plants?
But hey, why don't we just eat the mushrooms directly?
Do you know how to cook them?
No, actually, well, I have a memory of evaluation, huh? But I don't know if it also has to do with understanding the value and particularities of objects. I don't know if in this case, the mushrooms. If you want to evaluate whether an object is edible, you can bring memory into play and try a test. Actually, I'm curious to see if the mushrooms told him anything, so I'm following him.
Okay, so I'm following the directions of the dear mushrooms.
Okay, perfect. So here I bring up, I'll continue explaining in detail how the game functions, step by step, an event that takes place within our stripped path in the manual. And indeed, after a couple of you stray from the path and enter this group of dilapidated houses, let's say, for instance, after a while, you hear something you haven't heard in a long time, which is, as an example, dice rolling on a wooden surface. Okay.
Does it come from one of the houses?
Yeah. And it's accompanied by some noise too, as if these people are laughing, let's say.
So I grab Alfred by the jacket and pull him back, and I make a gesture with my hand as if to say, wait.
I just respond like this.
Perfect. And I try to get closer to the noise, assuming there are some unsavory people inside. So maybe looking for a breach in the house or a window or something that lets me see what the situation is in front of us.
So you want to spy without being noticed, let's say. Okay, this seems like a test to me. Okay. You're the one who tells me the objective at the end of your test. But as far as I understand, you want to sneak up and observe what's happening without being seen.
Exactly. So it's probably a test of sight, right?
Actually, let's discuss this because it seems to me that the test is about agility, since the main thing about agility is to move quickly, to be fast, and so on. It's a test based on stealth, so speed, being able to move quickly, and let's say discreetly, whereas sight doesn't have much meaning, because after all, you're not asking me for details, you're simply asking what's happening inside the room. So if that works for you, I would put it on agility.
Yeah, besides, I'm also stronger in agility, so that's perfect. Okay, so I roll 3 dice and add 3.
Exactly.
Okay, so I got 13.
In total.
13 in total. Yes. Let me see if I have. I would have to assassinate, but I don't think it's the right time yet, so I'm not using a memory for now.
Okay, so when you get closer, you hear that this ruckus and these giggles are all part of 2 people. One is huge. She's so fat that she's sitting on a barrel and her butt is spilling over the sides of the barrel itself. And the other one is thin, so thin that she can easily sit on a really narrow stool and feel as comfortable as if it were an armchair.
Sorry, I think to myself, these must be the skinny and fat ones that Alfred was talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, what are they doing?
They're playing dice on a barrel inside this completely dilapidated house.
Okay,
Okay? So during the test, you got a 13, and a 13 means you achieve a milestone. So you managed to spy without being seen. However, I have the right to impose a disadvantage. Okay. Towards you, a bit like I did with the previous action. Okay. In this case, I tell you that I don't have a specific disadvantage to impose in this test. So I take a black mark. Okay.
what do with black marks?
I can set aside the black marks and use them to make unpleasant things happen to your characters. I can give you penalties. And by accumulating a few, I could even interrupt your rest, thus preventing you from getting the benefits of a full rest. I can also bring in hostile creatures, even when the narrative or the manual doesn't normally allow for it. The black marks, for small things, should be noted here. This one, on the map.
Wait, because I'm not sharing your map.
Sorry,
Okay, can you show it?
here it is. This is the pool of black marks, so that they are visible to all players.
Okay,
Anyway, they don't seem to notice you, and you see these 2 people who keep going. You don't know why they're laughing, but they have these dice in their hands, rolling them a bit between their fingers, and when they get the result, both of them burst into loud laughter.
well, I step out of my place and say, I heard you laughing. I don't want to scare you, but where I come from, I'm considered a dice champion. I can play with you.
Both of them are dressed elegantly, and they even have top hats. And when they turn to you, you see their eyes widen. And they say, "Oh, a good one at Adi." And that fat one, who has this particularly shrill voice, says, "Did you hear that, fat one? There's one who wants to play Adi." And the other one, skeletal, says, "Oh, I heard you, skinny. Why don't we have him sit with us? It could be interesting."
So they call each other opposite. Question: is there something on the table in their gear that I can ask for in case of victory?
You see that behind them, while they're playing, there's a sack that doesn't look very reassuring because it's a big sack of like burlap or some kind of woven straw, but it looks like it's full of stuff. So from the top of the sack, you see various kinds of loot coming out, like a necklace, a piece of moldy bread, that kind of stuff. While at the bottom, there must be something dripping a red liquid. You wouldn't be able to say what it is, but by the smell, it seems like blood.
I point to the sack and say, if I win at dice, you let me put a hand inside, and whatever I pull out will be mine.
You see that they are both very pleased. Nice, nice, we like it. And if you lose?
That's a good question. In the meantime, what is Alfred doing? Is he looking at me or is he turning away? Why aren't you walking around the house?
Alfred, why did you tell him to stay still? He was standing still.
So let me see what I have that I can. I have a demolition kit. It's the only thing I brought with me. And if not, I have a bronze heart, a bronze chess piece.
Yes.
And that's it. Basically, I have nothing else.
Anyway, while I watch this whole scene and not understanding why he wanted to get so close, I'm now trying to go around the house, to see if there's a back entrance, an open window, or something like that.
Okay, I guess you want to sneak in too.
I have some sharp handcuffs that I usually use as a weapon. Yeah, I want to sneak in too.
Okay. I guess you want to set a narrative goal too.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say that it's always what we said, and the one from before that I used. I don't have the other meat, so I have 0. Therefore, it's 3 out of 6 clean, exactly 11.
From 11 to 13, it's a success. So, I'd say, I'll take the success. You don't have memory on meat. In that case, I want to spice things up a bit. So I'll say that the advantage I have, or rather the disadvantage I have, I'll use it to bring up a circumstance.
Wine that bends the road and I interrupt you second. To explain the black marks you got, in this case, you got it because I had a disadvantage, right?
Yes.
You can technically use them against someone else too.
Yes, I can use them on anyone. But in this case, I'm not using it. I'm using the normal disadvantage he got because he rolled an 11. 11 tells me I have goal, so he succeeds in his action, but he also has a disadvantage. My disadvantage is this: you go around, no one sees you, no one hears you. You get behind these two who are playing dice. You're pretty well hidden, but while you crouch at the back, you hear a creaking sound that only you can perceive, and you realize that the beam you're leaning on is about to collapse or break. This doesn't mean anything for now, but I'm telling you that for the next test, you have a -2 on meat. So if you had to make a test on meat and try to sneak around somewhere, you're now standing on a creaking beam and you'll make a lot more noise or the beam will break, etc.
All right. Okay, got it.
Okay, I'm coming back to you instead, Willem. So, what do the two of you say? So, if I lose, I'll give you this, and I pass them my demolition kit. A pickaxe could be useful. A pickaxe, you see them looking at each other. Yeah, it could be useful actually. All right, we accept. What do you say? We accept, we accept, we accept. They talk a bit among themselves, and then they basically take these dice, and they're 3 6-sided dice, of course, but they look like they're made from bones, probably knuckles, or similar bones, from the hand of some large human being. You see, if they roll them a bit in their hands, they put one hand in the bag for every win. They put the dice there and say, how was it played? How was it played? How was it played? How was it played? You need to roll more than 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's exactly how it was.
And you see them putting the dice in front of you. In this case, though, you manage luck with shadow.
Okay.
Unless you want to cheat.
No, but I would have a memory that would be perfect. It's just that it's not a shadow memory, so maybe I can't use it. Because it's a memory that says manipulation, using lies and half-truths to deceive. But in this case, if I have to roll the dice with shadow, then I have 3 smooth dice.
So, manipulation, what do you say? It's about heart. Okay. In this case, it really relies on social relationships, but if you want to try to put it into play, for example, I'll try to distract them with conversation while I switch the dice on the table. That could be an option.
But I have to roll with heart, right?
You have to roll heart.
No, it's less than what I have in shadow, so it's not worth it for me. So I roll with shadow, but there's also a way to boost my dice result a bit, right? Very good. If I use a stress point.
Exactly.
How does it work?
You mark a stress box on your sheet, and for this roll, and only this roll, you'll have a P1.
And I mark it on shadow, right?
Not on shadow, but on spiritual stress.
Yes, sorry, the one in the middle. Spiritual stress, which by the way is the one I'm also worse off in, that's fine. So I roll the 3 dice and add 1 due to the stress I have.
Yes, because you have 0 in shadow, you add 1.
Come on, 12, 13.
Perfect. Now, in this case, the +1 wouldn't have changed the roll for you, but if you had rolled a 13, it would have become a 14. So, you see that they are very impressed.
Oh, yes.
All right. So, a little touch on the bag this time. You see that they're dragging the bag. One thing. While he's dragging the bag, you see that the fat one is missing a hand. Okay?
Okay.
And instead of a hand, which obviously wasn't the one he used to roll the dice, he has a sort of twisted sickle claw. Anyway, without much effort, he takes this big bag and hands it to you.
Okay. Our goal here would be to find something to eat, right? So I can look inside the bag, right? Like you inside the hand.
No. And by the way, you see, the bag is particularly dark.
Well, I'm already regretting it. I put my hand inside and start feeling around until I touch something that could be edible.
So, here I like you to do a test of your eyes, because you're using your senses to look for something that seems to be edible.
So I roll 7, 10, 12.
Okay. There's a disadvantage. Again, in this test, I've already taken into account the disadvantage you had earlier, because I'm basically slightly changing the result of what you find. This is a success. But when you pull it out, you find a canteen, or rather, a leather pouch. And particularly unpleasantly, you see that it has a marked P on it, which is the same P that the slavers had.
I know who that P belongs to. So when I was at the camp, I don't know who was in charge of the slaver camp.
No, you see,
Okay, well, I look at it for a moment and it goes, you like the P too. Like the P, they applaud. The P.
they applaud. Well done, well done. Do you see? I'm giving a little applause.
And when it's inside here, well, I shake it.
Water, I think. Yes, it should be water.
I try to open it and sniff just in case.
It doesn't really seem like water to you. It looks like blood.
Okay, thanks. How nice. Good.
Want to take a shot?
I look around, I manage to get in and see Alfaro or not.
So, they are very distracted by you. You know he's around? So, yes, you can catch a glimpse of him behind you.
I have the feeling that if I get up and leave now, it will end badly. Right?
No, yes. They seem pretty calm to you.
Well, no, come on. I don't want to tempt fate more than necessary. Thank you for the prize, and I wish you to keep playing and that luck smiles upon you.
What a shame. There were a lot of things inside this bag that you could find. Who knows, maybe there was also a bag inside.
Start to gradually back off just a little bit more.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
When I see him carefully backing off, I also try to quietly leave without being seen.
Okay. I already told you that you've stepped onto a creaky beam.
So,
Huh.
no, I mean, I figured I should do a test to do it without being seen.
Yes, and I told you that you have a -2 on that test.
Yes, -2, but I could spend 2 points of physical stress.
Just one for the test.
Just one for the test, okay?
But come on, I'll spend 1. Okay. So that's 3 out of 6 minus 1. Keep in mind that if you want to approach the test differently, this is a goal. Now, a narrative goal. Your goal is to get away without being seen. Okay? In this case, I say, it's a goal for me, just like we've done so far. There's no need to make a longer test, but you can tell me you want to take it slow and, for example, use a trick to make them turn around or distract them somehow. So I'll leave it up to you how you want to proceed. If you want, you can also just do the meat test. Well, otherwise I could obviously do it if the place is full of molds. Like, yeah, yes, yeah. So I could communicate by whispering to a mold and really ask it to distract those 2 guys over there. Well, molds are molds. They can't do much to distract. But who knows? Maybe you could convince them. So I'll set it as a rather difficult test for you, giving you a shadow test, but with a -2.
Okay. And I'm spending a spiritual stress point anyway.
Okay.
So how much do you have in shadow?
In shadow, I have 3. -2 would make it 1. At most, 1 given by the stress, a -2. What a great shot.
7. Exactly. 7 plus 2 is 9. It's a test with 1. I mean, you don't achieve a milestone. Okay? Not achieving a milestone means you essentially get a failure. Okay? Or that's up to me. But in this case, I'm only mentioning it for completeness sake. I can still help you pass the test, but at a fairly high cost. In that case, I would ask you, in this case, basically, your character sometimes forgets to be balanced. And so, you start talking to this mold, and this mold starts responding to you like, hey, I don't know. It's so tiring right now. I'm a bit dry. I don't feel like it.
and you get a little angry with this mold, starting to say, "Come on, move, do something. I'm risking my life here." Only you raise your voice and don't realize you've spoken out loud. And those two people who were still rolling dice stop, slowly turn, and clearly see you. Okay, I'll also tell you that you can choose to narratively implement an advantage, because the result of 9 tells you that you suffer a complication. But you have an advantage to include in the test. Okay. What are advantages? They are small bonuses that can help you in subsequent tests, or to mitigate the failure of this test. For example, they tell you that with an advantage, you can make a new attempt to not miss the narrative goal. Okay. In this case, the narrative goal was to not get caught while you leave. Actually, your narrative goal is to not get caught, or is it to leave?
To leave, please.
To leave. So, I can tell you that you can make another attempt to not miss the goal. They've seen you by now, but you can avoid getting caught. You can recover a stress point from a pleasure table. You can get a +1 on the next test, or you can introduce an element in your favor. With my consent, of course.
I would say that the element in my favor for leaving could be that I see keep the window open where I can like jump out and retreat, okay? An open window where I can like jump out and retreat.
Okay. I like the building in the middle of the rocks. You made a round, and there would be a window where you can just jump out without any problem. They turn towards you. Yes, they're unsettling, but not fundamentally threatening. I mean, they don't have knives or anything like that. But you see that the skinnier one, who still had the bag in his hand, with a big grin, opens the bag and starts rummaging through it. So what are you doing?
I continued to go, and they wanted me to leave.
To escape?
Yeah, to escape.
All right. So I would say I was backing away, but the scene, right? Yeah, you're just a few meters in sight.
I have this demolition kit. There's a load-bearing beam that if I hit it with a pickaxe, it will bring down some of what's left of the house. And maybe it won't kill them, but it will distract them.
Okay. That's perfect. It's all in ruins here. So suppose that with a well-aimed hit, you could at least create a distraction. So I'm telling you that you're adding to his narrative goal. In this case, he wants to escape. And you want to achieve a goal in his place, essentially, or at least to help him. That's fine with me.
How many goals does he need to achieve to escape? So in this case, to escape, since they've already alerted them, I'll give you a goal with 2 objectives. Just okay. Okay, so I need to make a roll. The demolition kit gives a +2 on rolls for breaking down doors, opening chests, etc. So I imagine it can also count for breaking a beam. Yes, absolutely. Okay, and will it be a bones? Or flash roll? In this case, it's a tough strength roll, so I would say bones. Okay, so I would have 1 + 2 from the demolition kit. And then I roll the 3 dice.
Absolutely.
Let's see, I'll put them on screen. No.
5 out. You don't have a If I'm not mistaken, you don't have a memory that allows you to pick up bones.
No, don't have anything for bones.
All right, so this is a failure without advantage. In this case, I'm telling you that, sure, it's no problem to break a beam. The issue is that the ruins from the upper floor or the ceiling don't fall forward, but they fall towards you. Okay? And in this case, I decide to inflict stress on you. Okay? How does it work? I simply tell you, based on the test you made, and actually there's also a table that could help me in case I don't know how much damage the debris falling on you can do. I'm telling you that you take 4 physical stress. Okay?
Okay.
I'm still on the first line, so wait a second. Because you can use armor if you want, but not only can you use armor, you can also possibly use the bracers.
So wait. So I have armor with 3 uses. Protection and 4 physical.
Exactly.
So what does that mean? So now I would take 4 stress right away. What can I do? I can take...
You can use 1 use to avoid taking 4 stress.
No, not yet. I'm just taking them right now.
Okay. Alternatively, just to be clear, you can use one of your shackles, and the shackles have a defensive quality of 3F, which means you can use its uses to defend yourself with 3F. Okay?
Okay. So you choose to take the stress, and so the shackles are useful to me because it's an accessory that counts as armor.
It's an accessory that in this case counts as armor. Okay? So I use 1 use of the shackles. So it goes from 2 to 1. And you take just 1 stress. Sorry. It takes me a bit because I'm editing on the PDF, which takes a little time.
Okay. Well, so I just throw it on myself, I guess.
Yes, but I'm telling you, you did 5 plus 3, 8, right?
Yes.
So from what I said before, 8, 9, and 10 give you an advantage. Okay?
So even if you got a face full of debris, the 2 guys in this case, if you want, choose the advantage, but I could give you a distraction if you wanted. But then, you can choose the advantage yourself. I could add an element in favor of the protagonist, yes. Okay, I introduced the fact that, okay, I threw half a house on myself, but among the various things that collapsed, there's also a beam that got stuck across and prevents them from going behind to Alpha.
So more than preventing, which is a very, let's say it, would slow them down in case they wanted to run after. Okay. Alpha, what are you doing instead?
I keep weaving it. The house is exploding.
So for this objective, I'm telling you to make another flesh roll. If you want to, of course, run away.
Yeah. Also because I can't think of any better ideas. I mean, I don't think a parasitic plant could carry me away. So
It's 0 if there are no modifiers, and 3 6-sided dice in this case. That's fine. Okay, perfect. 11. So it's still a success, but you still have a disadvantage. However, in this case, I'm telling you that I would have removed it because of the action Willem took. It's within my power to do that as the GM. I just want to close the roll. I don't want to take any more black marks because I don't need them. I'm simply telling you that you managed to spring out of the window, let's say, and you would still have a goal to achieve because Tommaso's character. However, in this case, I retract and tell you that contrary to what you expected, the characters do not follow you, and so I can narratively close the roll. Okay? 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 Okay. They stay there with their hands in their hair. Ah, the ceiling. And the other one, oh, the floor. So they try to grab the dice, put their hands in the bag, and more than anything, they're trying to make a run for it, getting out of there. But they don't pay particular attention to you, let's say.
Okay, I'm quickly running in the direction where Alphard moved, trying to swiftly unite with him in order to hopefully, eventually, let's say.
Okay? Okay. You all regroup. After having escaped for a couple of, well, about 10 minutes, and you're in front of the bridge that leads to the path going over the bridge. The only thing you manage to get out of all this is a 1 or 3 that seems to be full of blood.
So, when the situation calms down a bit, I unscrew the cap again and let Alphar smell it. What do you think?
Now, that you're in a quiet situation, I have to say that this blood has a particularly sweet smell.
Okay, I put a finger in it.
So, when you taste it, you realize that you don't know why. Maybe it's a property of the blood itself. Or maybe it's because you've been eating crab until now, but this blood is super sweet. It's soft, round on. Your tongue almost sliding down like honey. It doesn't have that nasty metallic taste you might expect. It's really pleasant to drink.
Okay. I don't let anything show in front of Alfred, so I make a face, then close it up, put it back in my pocket, and when he turns to go in any direction, I turn for a moment and reopen it.
And it gives us a boost.
Exactly.
So you can note down a couple of reactions. This blood, if you learn to swallow it, is quite nutritious. So you put a couple of reactions in your ration bag, which is listed under the aspects on the second page of the sheet.
Okay, a couple, I said.
Yes, that should be enough for a couple of days. Your stomach keeps growling. Alphard, but I look at him and think, couldn't we find something more useful? He smiles at you with his red teeth. Huh, do you want to keep exploring the place? Or do you want to try to cross over the bridge?
Crossing over the bridge, wait, let me put the map back, would mean leaving this area and trying to head towards Red Edge, I imagine. Well, no, I imagine there's more to see around here.
There's that camp we left behind, unless you're changing your mind and want to head back to the camp. No. I mean, I was thinking if we keep exploring around here, we might find something. The question is, what do your characters want to do?
You know that the entrance to the sealed doors is roughly in this area here.
All right, this particular area right here. Okay, got it. Absolutely perfect.
Or rather, he asks where you entered, let's say. The door. Oh, okay. You could go north. More than anything, Tom. I'm telling you, if we want to show the transition mechanics between areas, since we still have about half an hour.
Yes, okay, let's do that. So what now? Let's do it that way. Yes.
So basically, you decide to head north, and at this point in the rules, there's a change of area. The change of area is really a movement mechanic. that allows you to explore new areas. It's nothing permanent. You can come back whenever you want, but you proceed with a movement roll.
Sorry, just to clarify, I wanted to say that in this area here, where we are now, there are more events that we haven't seen.
Yes, absolutely.
Now let's make the transition just to show the mechanic.
Sure, if you want, you could stay here. And looking for other events, you could also tell me, but you know what's there. Let's rest just to pass the time and see what happens here at night, for example. Or we could move back to the previous area that we haven't explored, excuse me. Or we could head south to check out the camp, since we haven't explored that either, and so on and so forth. But the truth is, right now, we're pushing the game a bit to show the movement mechanic. Okay, the movement between areas, in this case, the area you're in right now, and by area, I mean the whole area, is called the restless surroundings. Okay, and you are moving towards another area called the woods that were. Okay. In this case, I also narrate the transition between areas. So, you head towards the northern zone of Vatan, which is a predominantly hilly area with gentle slopes that are quite frequent, like the waves of a calm sea. However, it's not exactly an idyllic place. The heights alternate in different areas, one more rugged and hilly, further west towards the sea, which is the swamp, where strange niches can be seen along the shores of the Kalanchi. While there's a denser area right above the ancient city, which in this case lies to your southeast. However, the trees are both bare and twisted in a threatening way. Instead, the third area to the east has plants with extremely red leaves, so dense that it almost seems impossible to cross them with the naked eye, almost like a huge hedge rather than a single forest, a forest made up of individual trees. From both the north and the west, moans seem to rise. When you make a movement roll, you usually choose someone to act as, how do you say, the guide for the group. Okay. In this case, I tell you that, well, it doesn't really matter. The point is that it's about the person who, at that moment, is in charge of, well, transitioning between the areas or guiding the group. You are two. In this case, so choose one of the two.
Okay, how is this roll that we have to make?
So, you make a movement roll, which is done by a guide and consists of rolling 2d6 separately. It's not a test. The first roll identifies the tens according to the unit of a table of surprises that I will read out, where I basically tell you what happens.
Okay,
Try it.
should I do it? Go, Willem. All right, okay, a 4 and a 5.
Okay? The first die is a 4, right?
Yes, indeed.
When you make this roll, I'm going to draw a random event from the appendix that can happen to your group. So, I tell you that as you cross the bridge and move along, you basically finish the path and find yourselves in front of this wide
slightly wooded area. And as you walk, you make a particular discovery. You see on your left a sort of tomb that is somehow perfectly preserved for others. It's strange because it's placed outside of what should be a cemetery, as if it had been placed here quite randomly. But further east, you actually see that some gullies are stretching out and spreading out. So some rock formations, let's say, in any case, some little hills, in which there are, in the distance, you actually see some holes with some burial niches. It seems to you that this area is at least designated for the burial of very old bodies, etc. But this place feels slightly out of place. And as you get closer, you see that the tomb has been broken open from the inside out rather than the other way around.
Well, you're the expert. What could have come out of such a big tomb? Take a look inside.
I lean my head in to take a look at the tomb.
And push it.
So, as you look inside, you see that there isn't actually what you'd expect, like a vertical shaft with a coffin at the bottom. But there's a rather gentle slope that goes under the statue placed in front of the excavation of this pit, like a sort of underground tunnel.
There's a tunnel. There could be some treasure inside. I actually get closer to the tunnel and take a better look to see if it seems to have been made by humans or not. Like if I can recognize it as a tunnel made with tools I might know, or something totally unusual.
Does it look like it was dug by big paws? Okay, from the bottom up. Okay.
Regarding that, I mean, these are paws. I wouldn't want to say. And since it's from the bottom up, it means something has come up. So there might be nothing, or there could be something down there. And if they are paws and they dug a tunnel like this, I don't know what they could do to our bodies. I think nothing good.
Well, clearly, whatever was down there has come out by now.
Or it came out and then came back.
Well, we look around. There are some tracks that might suggest this interpretation.
So, I don't need a proof of eyes to tell you that the tracks you initially attributed to normal wild boar dismantling or things like that, which I hadn't paid much attention to, seem to only go in the direction of the exit. So it doesn't look like this creature has come back. It seems to have gone out for whatever reason. But you don't see any signs of tracks coming back because, simply put, just look at the claws, or whatever this creature has instead of like paws, which are digging in the opposite direction to that. Even the soil that's been disturbed by the movement of this creature's paws is in the opposite direction to that
of the excavation. So I tell him to step aside, move over. I'm going to check it out myself. But whatever's down there, I'll keep it.
Okay. I kind of wonder if his liver can stay inside the body even after being opened.
I lower myself into the hole. You stay here and make sure no one is coming.
So, there's no need to lower ourselves in because, as I told you, the descent is pretty gentle, but it gets a bit more crumbly, let's say, and it really looks like it was recently dug. So,
The earth, is still damp because it was just, let's say, excavated. And as you go down, you start to smell this typical scent of, well, dismembered earth, dust, which gradually becomes sweeter and is replaced by a sort of rot until it practically starts to get dark. After a couple of minutes of walking, you see the entrance to this tunnel, or rather where this excavation was probably done. And on the other side, there's a sort of dome, or at least a kind of cylindrical room structure. Are you taking a peek? Are you actually going in?
Yes, it looks like a structure built by a human.
Yes.
Okay, then yes. I'm going to examine it closely. Is there a door?
No, it was broken through on one side.
Ah, it was broken through on one side. So I take a look from the exit point, let's say.
You continue into the tunnel and reach a point where a room has been broken through. A creature has started to dig, revealing a pit filled with corpses. Above, there's a small hole with a winch, likely used to pull the creature up. The circular area is dug into the earth, reinforced with poorly nailed metal bars. Crucified on this grid are several half-eaten corpses, hanging like macabre tapestries. You also see a hole from above, and quite small, in which there must basically be some sort of winch or something like that that is illuminated, where they probably dug this creature out, pulled it up. But the peculiar thing is that aside from the hole you're in, this entire circular area is dug into the earth and reinforced with metal bars, poorly nailed together, or fused, or held together in a rather makeshift way. And crucified on this metal grid are several half-eaten, half-masticated corpses that practically hang like macabre tapestries throughout the room.
So from what I understand, it's a kind of a underground cage for a creature that has escaped. Is that what I can conclude?
You think so, yes.
And is there some sort of winch from which they might have taken it to a higher level?
You think so?
When I look up, what's on the upper level?
It's still underground. But do you think it consists of some kind of... It looks like stone building of some kind.
Okay, I mean, do I see a way to get to the upper level or not?
You think whatever this creature is, it must not have been very good at climbing, because the metal grids might have been too small for it. But these bars are arranged in a cross pattern. So if it wanted to, it could climb.
So here's what I'll do. I'll go back outside and report what I saw to Alfar. I tell him, look, there's an empty cage over there in a building, but from where he is, can I identify what this building is or not? It's completely underground.
No, because right in front of you there are these ravines. And do you think this building must be buried or hidden inside one of these ravines?
Let's go see what it's about, probably. Okay, let's try. Let's see what happens. All right, I'll lead the way. I take him to the cage, and I say, but now you climb, because I came to take a look.
You want treasures so much, but not even a bit of effort. So obviously, guys, here, there are these corpses that are half rotten, half disemboweled. So let's just say that the situation is pretty disgusting. But hey, you guys are used to worse. I mean, you're not easily impressed.
I mean, can we identify what kind of creature this might be, based on how these ones died or not?
It's difficult because it seems like this creature, whatever it is
enjoyed leaving them alive, maybe eating their legs first, and then getting up to the waist. Probably when they died, it lost interest, which is why only the torsos are hanging.
Let's hope this creature is far enough away, but I'm sure it won't be. All right, don't worry. You've seen much worse in the fields of the slavers. Come on, I'll give you a hand.
I know that. All right, I'm starting to climb.
In this case, Tommaso has implemented the mechanic where he can help you in your test simply by paying 1 stress and giving you a +1. If he wants, in this case, yes, because it's a physical test, you can also add your physical stress to it. So if you want, you can have a +2 if you stress yourself too.
I'd say it's always a flash test, right?
Yeah, flash test could work for me. Yeah.
No, well, tell me why. Like bones. Wait, explain to me what bones are for.
No, bones are more about physical sturdiness, that kind of thing. In this case, it's more about the weight to power ratio, so I prefer more meat.
Okay, so I would always go with meat. So I have his +1. I'll take a +1 for stress too. So that's 3 out of 6 +2 because I'm starting from scratch.
Okay,
Hold on, I'm sharing the screen. Wow.
14, 15, and 16 is a test with a success, so just a milestone without any disadvantage. You reach the top in no time and see that there's this big winch that seems to be meant for pulling down that sort of. Do you know the winches for horses? So what they have under that sort of blanket that was used to put on the horse's back, exactly, on the horse's chest and pull it up. It's something like that, but actually this blanket is made of chains and seems to be designed to lift something significantly heavier than a horse. The rest are cells that seem to be more or less empty, stretching out to the left and right of the winch, leaving this pit behind. The hallway goes straight, and in the distance you see another room that from here is without light. Even underground, you can't see well.
I go. I approach a cell that isn't not empty, obviously.
They're almost all empty,
Okay.
except for a couple, some old corpses.
Okay, perhaps human corpses or
Human beings.
okay. So I tell them just corpses.
Maybe they were the food for the beast trapped down here.
Okay, but you come up too so you can see better.
All right. Also, because you look behind you and see this tunnel that has been dug, right? You start to say, what if this creature were to show up right now?
Okay.
I would be here alone. It's probably not the best thing.
I'm going to climb too.
So actually, he's up there. He can help you climb. In this case, I don't care to try. You're not in a particular hurry anyway. So I tell you that all he has to do is extend a cloak, a rag, something like that, and he helps you pull yourself up. And in no time, you're both up there. There's this long corridor with cells on the left and right. They're mostly empty, except for a couple with some corpses. But especially in the distance, there's a stone archway leading to a room that you haven't really seen yet, let's say.
Do we have some kind of light source?
So, you are considered to have with you a small improvised adventurer's kit. So, a flint, a torch, something like that. You have it as a basics. Okay. It's stuff you had with you when you were thrown in here and that you found before escaping from the mud fields.
So, excuse me, you were saying there's a corridor at the end of which there's a room,
An arch.
an arch. All right. Let's go take a look, holding the flame up in front of us to make as much light as possible.
Also, because the further you get away from the hole, the less light there is. So you need to light your way. When you arrive at the stone arch, you see that it's a religious chapel. On the left and right, there are frescoes that seem to have been desecrated at some point. But there are representations of people who are practically going to make a sort of donation to a very majestic figure, to be honest, who is holding a chalice. Can we see this figure, Tom? So it's on the map.
Can we see it on the map too? Okay, let's see it.
Imagine this figure depicted just like this, with people bowing down, making a gesture of prayer or some kind of charity towards this figure who is holding a chalice.
Okay, we've never seen it before. Never seen it. Do you know who this is? No, but it has a chalice. Do we know this story about the holy water or not?
Yes, you know that whoever returns with a chalice overflowing with water is given, how can I put it, a sort of universal jubilee in their favor, for which they are forgiven for their sins or their crimes.
Okay, that's fine. So I say that must be the famous chalice filled with holy water, the one that the United Churches crave when they send those poor souls inside the walls of the seal to try to retrieve this water. So maybe this woman is the one who somehow distills it.
Okay. How would it help us to leave without dying?
Sorry, she's still the only one in the rest of the room, or is there something else?
Opposite, on the other side of the room, there's a relief with this other figure. Okay, I'll bring it closer to you, which in particular has it wouldn't be like that. It would be, let's say, more, the figure would be a bit cleaner, so to speak, more, less convoluted. The only thing is that this bas relief, instead of having a face, has a real mask placed on top of the face. Okay, but it's not part of the relief. It's like someone placed a mask over it.
Ah, there's really a mask on it. Yes, yes. Okay. But why don't you touch the mask?
I say, with my absolute passion for tomb raiding, I definitely take the mask without hesitation.
It's a truly Indiana Jones moment now.
Take the mask, or rather grab the mask and take the mask. The peculiar thing is that when you remove the mask from the statue, you expect to see a face underneath. But instead, the face of this sovereign has been completely mutilated to the point of being unrecognizable. You wouldn't even be able to tell if it's a man or a woman. Okay, simply all the facial features have been defaced intentionally because the rest of the structure, the rest of the sculpture, or in any case, the bas relief is not damaged. But the face is, it has been defaced in such a way as to make it unrecognizable.
Somebody didn't like this guy at all. Who knows, right? Well, it's a nice history lesson, but it doesn't seem like there's much for us here. Is there an exit from this room? Or do we have to go back the way we came in?
There's another side of this little chapel.
At first glance, it seems open.
When you open it, you find yourselves inside the woods that once were. This is the transition of the air as it was made.
Are we using up some hourglasses to make this transition?
In this case, yes, I tell you that. A bit for the exploration, a bit for everything. This is my decision. Depending on how I interpreted the event, I'm giving you a used hourglass.
So theoretically, we would be halfway through the afternoon now.
Exactly, we're halfway through the afternoon. So there are 3 hours left until evening, and then, well, 6 hours of evening to evaluate.
So we would technically arrive in this new area at night, basically. Exactly.
Exactly,
So there will be events that don't happen during the day, right?
absolutely.
I'd say it's a good time to wrap things up, just to give an overview. So thanks for the overview. Much appreciated. Thanks, Jack. And thanks to you all for playing with us. We hope that anyone watching this video finds it interesting. Let's hope the black magic can eventually translate it into English too. And, well, support the campaign. I'll put the link here for a second below. But you know, if you're watching this video, you probably already know that Beetle Chalice is coming. It's always very important for us to have direct support from the community. So if you have any questions, I invite you to join our Discord server, the link for which you can probably find in the description of this video. Thank you all.
Thank you. See you next time.